everybody. My name is G Brown, G Brown the Lifestyle Changer, and I'm by myself this evening. Oh, just for a little while. So what's going on tonight? Um, this is a special broadcast for and if you guys read the thumbnail live or in the replay, you'll see that I make mention of our favorite carnivore from the comments. She's never done an interview that I know of. And on this walk, let me just talk a little bit about Frederick and I. Make sure you all can hear me. Okay, so it's been 68 days for me. So it's 270 for Frederick. And with that being said, this has been a whole new leaf at life. If you're not doing what we're doing, and I'm geeked up because we just got back from our annual physical. We just got back from our annual physical, and my guest is here. But let me just finish this. We got back from our annual physical, and the doctor was like amazed with us. Might get her Keto. Oh, she was telling people, she told me how she watched, because when we did the interview with Dr. Chafee and we were on at like 7:30, we were on like 7:30 in the morning. So she was up and about. And she's like, wait a minute, those are my patients right there. And she started looking, hey, everybody, y'all come on in. I'm getting ready to bring the guest in. I'm getting ready to bring her in. I just need to set things up. So, she saw us with Dr. Chafee. So now this is a doctor talking and a doctor listening. This is a doctor from the carnivore lifestyle and a traditional medicine doctor is listening and seeing. She's in there clicking up. Nope, no pre-diabetic. Boop. Nope, no blood pressure. Boop, boop. And closing all. She said, I love when things turn around. And so she was really, really excited, which leads me to my guest. Pursuit of Blyss. You guys could see that from the thumbnail that I did. And I'm close to positive that she's never done an interview, but she'll let me know. And I really respect her privacy, y'all, because she ain't on here yet. All right. Listen to me. It took me some moments to get her on. There are some people that they're just look here. You know some cuckoo birds out here. They try and capture your information and just everything. So there's some Looney Tunes out here, and I respect her privacy. So this is what we agreed to, and I love it. Everybody, let's welcome Pursuit of Blyss to the stage. Baby girl, you are muted. Hold on. Unmute yourself. And there we are. Oh, I love the picture you came up with. Everybody, this is Blyss. Blyss, this is everybody. So I wasn't going to allow the fact that, because everybody don't like being on camera. And y'all, let me tell you, she's really pretty too. But that's a whole nother story. Everybody doesn't like that, but she has a story to tell. And so without further ado, and you guys can ask her questions with the QQQ, I'll pop them up and she's here to openly answer. Blyss, what I love about you is that number one, you are an OG. Oh. That means that she is from the beginning of our channel, y'all. She is from the beginning of our channel. I love her because this YouTube, you know, it's different. It's different from anything that I've done. I've gone live. I've done things like that, but this is me sharing me. And for her, every comment, the knowledge, just it's like I look forward to it. She goes back, and whether she is in that conversation or not, she gives her input. Some of them like this, y'all. It takes time to type. So I just want you to know, Blyss, that I love and appreciate you, Frederick and I. But he said that he was gonna watch, and because I got a whole new little setup in here, he ain't ready. So, Blyss, my first question to you, my love, is can you share with us what initially led you to adopt the carnivore diet and how long have you been carnivore?
6 years as of December 27th.
All right. So, how has it been following this lifestyle for the last 6 years? What led you
Um,
here?
well, so before I was carnivore, I was keto. And when I went keto, oh, and first of all, hey y'all. I'm happy to see people here and hanging out with us. But anyway, so when I went keto, I was I really was I was already involved in my fitness journey, my health journey, but there was still, I mean, really, there's always so much to learn. I was already going to the gym, I was already working out, and I had been working out consistently for 2 years, and I kept hearing about low carb, and but even long before then, I had heard about Atkins, but I had a doctor who talked me out of doing Atkins, and
But wait a minute
was
before you go too far. Wait
mhm.
before you go. How much weight did you lose when you was doing all that working
Well,
out?
let me. Well, actually,
Okay.
I lost over 130 pounds, so
Okay, come on now.
it is. But there's more to it. So
Right. Go ahead. Tell your
I mean,
story.
yeah, for me, I had you know uh I was going to go Atkins, and the doctor talked me out of it, and I
Mhm.
ended up going plant based, which um that was more of in line with there will be some people who won't understand this. You may not even understand. I don't know. But that was more in line with just how hotep I was at that time. Anyway, I was very
Wait a
much
minute.
in, I said hotep. Yes. And that's
Okay.
a slang term. I was very much into uh it's just think of hotep as one way to think of Hotep is like real woo for Black people. So we were very much into all things Egyptian, but we called it Kemetic. And there
Right.
was a lot of fasting. There was a lot of vegetables that was supposed to be real high vibrational and da 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 da, da so on and so forth. And so that was me. And I really ended up staying plant based, even though I would still eat some meat.
Uh-huh.
Most of my diet was very plant forward. It was well, Laura, I don't have the same doctor now. Um, I was an undergrad at the time, so um,
But no,
I
I'm putting that up because
oh,
you
okay,
went on and answered it. Okay.
yeah, okay. So I um I was like, say for instance, the meat that I would eat would be chicken, and I would eat chicken breast. And I remember there was a time that I was so disrespectful to chicken wings, so disrespectful to chicken wings. Yes, Mama Cracker, Hotep is the word. I would take the skin off of chicken wings because I was fat phobic. That's
Mm,
how, you know,
that's how we gain weight. That's right.
it was like, you don't want the fat, you don't want the saturated fat, you want to take all the skin off the chicken, you don't want to eat anything with a lot of fat on it, blah, blah, blah. So I would be in my mama's house taking skin off of chicken wings. And
Girl, stop it.
yeah, and cooking chicken wings. And I did that for many years of my life. And I was like, uh, when I went keto, that was a way for me to really work out my issues with fat. And I didn't realize how important fat was, just natural animal fat, um, until I went keto. And even when I went keto, I did like a gradual step down because everything that I was learning, like while I was working out and stuff, I was still more carb focused. And even though while I was keto, I was still more plant focused, and chicken breast was still my meat of choice primarily. Um, I it still helped me work out my issues with that. Like I got to eat butter, I got to eat bacon, and I did incorporate some more beef, but usually it was ground beef. Um, but still primarily chicken breast. So after, let's see, 2016, 2017, um, there was a community that I was a part of that was, it was two keto dudes community, and they had a podcast, and they, were interviewing, just people, and they would have Amber O'Hearn on. And Amber O'Hearn is an OG carnivore. And she was in one of the original carnivore groups before there were carnivore groups on Facebook. Um,
Hmm.
and Jimmy Moore used to have a low carb forum, and within that forum, there was a carnivore section. And in that carnivore section, that's where Amber O'Hearn, Kelly Hogan, Charles Washington, Dana Spencer, so on and so forth, all of these OG carnivores and more, those are just some, they were in that forum. I wasn't in that forum. Jimmy Moore shut that forum down, and they had to find a new space, and then they ended up on Facebook. So you have zero carb health, and you have zeroing in on health. Um, those two primarily, and you have was it Carnivore Principia or something like that? I can't remember the name exactly, but in that group, another OG started that group, and they're more open to people who want to fast, for instance, on carnivore. So anyway, Amber
Now, how are
O'Hearn.
you finding these groups?
Okay, so Amber O'Hearn. um, when two keto dudes, Richard and Carl, those are the two keto dudes, their podcast, and they started their podcast around the same time that I was coming to keto. So it was the worst of times. It was the best of times. It was that kind of thing. So they were starting their podcast, and the podcast was fairly new, but they were interviewing so many different people. And you have to realize, like around 2015, 2016, that's when keto was really turning into, like, have you heard of keto? And there were more people who were interested in keto, and more people getting involved in the low carb community. Before then, Jimmy Moore was the big voice and, low carb primarily. And even then, he was still a big voice in low carb. So, two keto dudes had Amber O'Hearn on. By the end of 2016, they had started the Ketogenic Forum, which was like a forum, it's an online forum. And they were trying to transition the Facebook group, the Two Keto Dudes Facebook group, to the forum. So it would be more autonomous. You see what I'm saying? Autonomy is like a really big thing, especially when you don't know, like, and this is just an example. This is no knock against Jimmy Moore one way or another. This is not me passing judgment, but he shut down the carnivore section of the low carb forum. It was his forum. The same thing can be done on Facebook. Any group can be shut down if it's not autonomous. So one of the things that two keto dudes wanted was that autonomy, and they didn't know if Facebook was going to come for them, and rules and regulations and da 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 da, so on and so forth. So but in that forum, there was a carnivore section. Amber O'Hearn, out of the kindness of her heart, she was like the resident carnivore. And so I did a lot of fasting while I was keto. And so I had decided, my last fasting experiment was a 21-day fast. And I decided, I'm going to try carnivore after that. I'm just going to try it. I had listened to Amber O'Hearn, so many times, and she talked about it, not in this, romanticized way, but I was willing to give it a go because I really was still weight loss focused. I just, it's like I'm weight loss focused. Okay, so she would be there answering our questions. And I remember that first time, so that was in January of 2017, January into February of 2017. I was on the struggle bus because your girl was trying to eat chicken breast. Because remember, that's what I had been eating through basically the majority of my keto journey. My meat would be chicken breast. I was getting it for $1.99 a pound. So skinless, boneless chicken breast. And all the vegetables I wanted. Really, because I would be having the green leafy vegetables. I would be having cabbage, and I would make sure, to cook whatever vegetables I would have in bacon fat. And I would have some butter. And yes. I'm just answering the questions. Yes, Frederick. 21-day water only. So anyway, I was struggling. And Amber O'Hearn was like she was so tactful and diplomatic. It was like, maybe you don't want to eat chicken breast. And I was like, well, this is what I got. No, it's not
Let me ask you
impressive.
this, Blyss. Let me ask you this, because what I'm hearing, because it blows me away that I just found out 8-ish months ago about this community. My mom, I used to joke with her, talking about her being a carnivore, but she ate other things. But my mama would hit the meat first all the time. but of course we had sauce on it and all of that. So I'm listening to you. You from back then, it sounds like you were really gaining some knowledge. What do you feel from the beginning times that you're talking about now versus now? What's available and the community how it is now, because it almost seems like y'all was doing some of these numbers just really trying to find something, and now it's a little more out there. So how is your comparison from then to now?
Um, in a way, it's good that it's that at the very least the word carnivore, zero carb, animal based, in a way it's really good, but it's still plagued with all of the same things that we were plagued with back then, even in keto. So what you see is you see the trends. You see, oh, I'm gonna do the sardine fast, or I'm a fast, or I'm a fat fast, or I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And it's just like, you don't have to do all of that. Like I said, I did a lot of fasting when I was keto. I didn't have to. I ended up down regulating, especially with that 21-day fast. Like Mr. Brown said, that's impressive. It's not impressive because I down regulated my metabolism during that time.
Mm.
With
No, for
that,
somebody to stick with something 21 days to that degree,
I'm
it is
it
impressive.
it's
No, no, I
impressive.
know you talking
No,
about
it's
that
impressive
damage.
that I did it. But
Right,
what's not impressive is the reality of it
right.
is that I down regulated my metabolism. As someone who works out, who strength trains, I had no business doing a 21-day fast. I have no
Yeah.
business doing a 9-day fast. I have no business doing an 11-day fast. And so those were the types of things that I was doing. It would be different if I was doing, 24 hours, 48 hours, or whatever. But I would go for the longer fast and I would still work out. And I would
But you said that
all
losing weight was probably more of your goal, right?
well, right. And
Okay.
that opens up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, it
Because
does.
essentially what happens is once you go back to eating, you gain weight. And you can end because if and this was something that I would see, but I didn't quite understand it because at that time, again, Jason Fung was, you know, in vogue, very much in vogue. I mean, that was another hot name with the fasting. And so it's like, I would see people, they really looked the same, even though they were fasting. They could feel really good. I mean, because you have the extra ketones circulating in the bloodstream. It doesn't necessarily mean that the muscles are using all of those ketones, but you do have those extra ketones floating around in the bloodstream, readily available as needed, so on and so forth. Um, and I would feel good when I would fast. Like um, when I say, for instance, one 9-day fast, I felt really good, and I would be out there working out, walking, rucking, doing whatever. And but I never, I never would necessarily lose the weight and keep it off, because once I go back to eating, the weight would gradually go back up. And after that 21-day fast, all of the weight came back. All of the weight that was lost during the 21 days came back, and then some. And then it just
Yeah,
kept going.
that's normally
So,
how it is.
yeah. And
Well,
so it's like,
let me
oh,
ask
go
you,
ahead.
Bliss. Let me ask you this: what are
Mhm.
some of the most significant health benefits that you've experienced since transitioning uh, from keto to carnivore on this route? From there, because you're so right, and that ends up being one of the issues with people. You go to the gym, you do all this working out, and then you have what we call a cheat meal, and then you lost 20 but you gained 30, and then you deprive yourself, uh and you lose some weight, and then of course you go to eat, and then before you know it, you lost 5 but you gained 10. And so yeah, but um my question is, what are some of your health benefits from then to now?
Um, well, one of the first things, yes, Mama Cracker, I still strength train. That's something that's never going away. If I live to be 90 years old, I'm gonna find a dumbbell somewhere that I can
Girl,
lift.
125, 125. Live to 125. I want the
So,
carnivore community to bust 100s. Like, it's like, ooh, and that's gonna really capture some attention. But go ahead.
so, um, one of the first
Benefits.
things that happened for me that wasn't ever resolved on keto. Like with keto, I just felt good. I felt good. I could, yeah, I was still losing weight, but historically, I'm a slow loser. And I've never been a fast loser unless I was sick.
Hmm.
So, but my digestive system was so much better. My digestion was so much better. Um, and I mean, even though, so it took
On
me,
keto, you're talking
no,
on
on
keto.
carnivore, on carnivore.
So carnivore, your digestion is better.
Yeah. Even
Okay.
on keto, I just felt good. I had more energy. I was finally getting fat. And I could have real butter. I was raised on margarine and skim milk. So I could have heavy cream and I could have whole milk. So I was finally actually getting um, good nutrients, good fats. And there were improvements, like, say, for instance, my triglycerides were better. Um, my, uh, for whatever it's worth, my cholesterol, my the good cholesterol, the HDL was better. Um, and which historically that was always low for me. Um, but I just felt better. But when I went carnivore, that was when um that was when I didn't have the digestive issues. I mean, I went through the adaptation period. Okay, so when I finally went carnivore, because it took me 3 tries to
I
finally
remember that.
get it. Yeah, to finally get it. I had issues. I just had issues. And the
Wait a
second
minute.
attempt,
Issues with the diet or just issues in life?
no, well, the first time I wasn't eating properly. So
Okay.
I was like, okay, I don't think
Eat
I
some
was
more.
mentally ready. I just wasn't mentally ready because I was trying to do it eating chicken breasts, you know, and that's not working. That's not going to work. The second time, okay, and keep in mind, Sally Norton, no one had really heard of Sally Norton, and she hadn't been talking about oxalate dumping or anything like that. So some of us only knew that we would experience for like crazy fatigue and pain in our bodies when we would go carnivore. That's what happened to me the second time. It was horrendous. And fortunately, I was working at home at the time because I could hardly walk. I mean, I
Hmm.
could hardly walk, and I would stay in the bed all, just about all day, because I was so sleepy. And
Oh
it
yeah,
lasted
yeah.
like that for about a month and a half, somewhere between a month to 2 months, and it was just horrendous. And I did add back in vegetables, and I felt better. I wasn't the only one who was going through that. There were other reports of people, um, who I remember one in particular, and it took him like 7 or 8 tries to go carnivore. And I was like, oh, this is
And you all
crazy.
contribute this to oxalate dumping?
Yeah, well, I it was only after we started learning about oxalate dumping is a possibility that it was oxalate dumping. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it would make perfect sense for me because I was very heavy into oxalate rich foods, spinach,
Mm-hmm.
almonds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, spinach was my favorite. I could eat a pound of spinach like nobody's business. And once you cook some
Mm-hmm.
spinach, you can end up eating, yeah,
Yeah.
like a whole lot of spinach. And so it's like, yeah, no, it was probably
I'm glad.
oxygen.
Let me just stop you there, if you
Uh-huh.
don't mind.
Go
I'm
ahead.
glad that you brought that up because there are times when people start this lifestyle, and I have a family member, and I remember for her, well, they were talking in regards to like feet swelling, and immediately you start thinking that the meat is doing that to you because that's the thing that you changed. And it's like, no, you have toxins, you have so much stored in your fat. That's the reason why you had the inflammation and you had all these different things. So now someone asked me today, where does the fat go? And I say, well, I'm gonna assume that you pee and poop it out because you wake up, you smaller. So then what? You'll pee it out. Those toxins got to get out of you. And
So
so with that being, go ahead.
yeah, so it's like the thing about oxalates, and this is from what I've learned so far. um it's not just in the fat. This can oxalates can the
Mm-hmm.
crystals can be in your bones. And
Mm,
here it is, like 6 years. A perfect example, Coach Raymond from the Steak and Butter Gang, he recently did a fast, and he took a picture, and it looked like a red rash on one side of his chest, his torso, and that was oxalate dumping. He's been carnivore for 6 years. So what is important for us to understand is there are some things that can happen, you know, years down the road, where you can have some type of release or inflammatory flare up. I considered it at the time an inflammatory flare up. And I hadn't, oh, and that was another thing. Like I didn't have aches and pains even on keto, because I was feeling good. I was just feeling good.
Mhm.
So when that
Mhm.
happened, I was like, oh my gosh, especially hardly being able to walk and the way that my joints felt. I mean, I felt decrepit, absolutely decrepit. And it's, yeah, it can be like there could be a stress trigger. You could be fasting, you could just be minding your business looking at TV. You could wake up and something, happened. It's like, wait a minute, I don't know what happened. But the body is still releasing, is still you know something. And some things just take time,
Right.
and that's okay. You're still better for being carnivore than not being carnivore. Yeah.
Amen. Well, Laura wanted to know what's been your favorite effect of the carnivore. I'll let you answer that, but then I want you to follow right behind that, because we just got out of the holiday season. We got hit with uh New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then you have Valentine that just passed, and in regards to chocolates, how do you navigate social settings?
So, Laura, my I guess my favorite effect of carnivore is, yeah, just one. I mean, I have a lot of things. I have a lot of things. Like, first of all, I love the simplicity of my meals and meal prep. Um, Everything is just very simple. I already know what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to look for. Like, if I'm out in the streets and I need to get something to eat, I already know, I don't have to guess. I can
Right.
make requests at restaurants, like what I want, how I want it, so on and so forth. Um, Social settings and holidays, that's not a problem with me, because I learned when I was keto, and even when I transitioned to carnivore, but primarily when I was keto, like if I was going to a potluck, I'm cooking my food for me. I don't care what y'all eat. I'm cooking
I
my
know
food
that's
for
right.
me.
I
And
know that's right.
I will
Le-
I can make a contribution, but I'm still going to have what I need. And I just made up my mind. That's part of my discipline. Um I'm not succumbing to peer pressure. If anything, I will succumb to my own emotional stress, but not peer pressure. I'm like, bump y'all, because, ain't none of y'all got to deal with anything that I got to deal with. And
I know that's
whatever.
right. I know that's
Yeah.
right. Well, let me ask you this. What does a typical day look like for you? How does your typical day flow? Being in your carnivore lifestyle, you can pick the day of work, weekend. I don't know how it changes, but what is a typical day? Your eating habits, so on and so forth.
So I go to the gym 3 days out of the week at this point, and I get up at 3, and I like to be at the gym by 4:15 ish, depending on when my ride gets here. Um, and I'm going to work out. I'm going to spend a couple of hours in the gym, literally a couple of hours. And I may have something before I leave. That's where the protein powder comes in. So I like to work out either on an empty stomach or feeling like I have an empty stomach. So if I have a protein powder, um, I have some protein powder, which I only use like a couple of tablespoons, and
Mm-hmm.
an egg yolk and a little bit of tallow and hot water. I'm
Okay.
drinking.
Thank you for
Yeah,
the hot water. 'Cause
yeah, yeah. I'm drinking that. You know, it's that's my drink, my protein.
Mm-hmm.
That's my protein shake, and
Mm-hmm.
I am good to go. Headed out. I have some protein. I have some fat, and I have the egg yolk. That's my multivitamin, and I can go out there and conquer the world with, well, conquer the gym
Yay.
with that. And then I come home and I officially have breakfast. Um, yeah. And so I I may have like some Zoom type things that I have to do, or so whatever I do during the day, I'm going to walk maybe 3 times a day. And part of that, if it's a day I'm going to the gym, one of those walking sessions will be at the gym. But I'm going to walk multiple times a day. I'll put it that way. And I'm going
And how
to
many
make
days
sure
a
that
week do you walk?
every day.
Multiple times a day.
Yes. And it's not about, oh, I'm going to exercise every single day, but I'm going to move my body every single day. My goal is to not be sedentary. My goal is to remain active and to not be sedentary. That's very important for me. Um, So I will walk multiple times a day. I don't care if I have to walk in my apartment. I'm going to walk. I'm going to do something. I'm going to move. There will be some movement. Um, and I set goals for myself. Like I have a 90-day goal, a certain amount of, I want to reach a certain amount of steps. Um, you know, this is something that I'm working towards. And that keeps me focused, helps me feel like I've accomplished something, so on and so forth.
Well, you have.
And
You have. Do you mind sharing what your heaviest was and how much? And then
well, I'm
you
not
don't
going to
have
share
to.
what I weigh now, but at my
I was just
heaviest,
going
I
to
was,
say you don't have to
yeah,
share with you weight now, but you
yeah.
can kind of like
At
give
my
us a.
heaviest, I was over 400 pounds.
Okay.
So that was, I mean, yeah, that's just what it was. And I couldn't tell you how much over 400 pounds I was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's what it was. It was over 400 pounds. And yeah, I wasn't 400 pounds when I started keto or carnivore. So I had,
You had managed to lose some weight.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um, no, I don't have any friends or any family that I am my family, and so I don't have any friends that are going carnivore. I've had associates that would talk like they're going to try to go carnivore, but they ain't about that life. They ain't really about that life.
Girl, they ain't about this life. They are not about this life. Because
They are,
listen, I feel
yeah.
that honestly, if you can do this, then you can whip your finances in order. You can do all kind of things because you've proven yourself to be disciplined. Well, let me ask you this: what advice would you give someone who's interested, since evidently your family and friends are not listening, but and they might have some concerns? Where do you stand? Do you tell people try keto first? or I tell people when this just seems like so much for them, I just say just eat one ingredient food. What that mean? That means green beans and some fatty meat. I said broccoli, but if you try to add cheese, cheese is not one ingredient. And then cheese and broccoli make two ingredients. So we can't do that. And so there's, and wrap their mind around that, because the moment you say carnivore and they understand that it's meat, then all of a sudden, all the things that you can't have, you go into a food coma just thinking about what you can't have. So what is it, what advice would you give someone who's interested in exploring?
Well, one of the things that I did when I was keto, and I kept the list for ever. I would just give people a list of things that they could eat. These are things you can eat.
Wait a minute. You got that from when you were keto?
I made the list, and it was
Oh,
basically
you made
things that I was eating. I
right.
made the list and was like, these are things that you can eat. And I would just send that to people. Knock yourself out. You know,
Yeah.
because people get afraid of restrictions, but there's a whole nother component to all of this that many of us are not mindful of, and including myself. And it took me, like, okay, so remember I said I've lost over 130 pounds twice, and
Okay.
I'm in the midst of losing that for the third time.
Mm-hmm.
So there were things that I really needed to learn and understand. When I said that I was very much weight focused, like I gotta lose weight, I gotta lose weight, I had to change that, because what
Mm-hmm.
we don't address, like we don't address how we see food, we don't address the emotional issues, we don't address um just other things that have been contributing to our weight gain and poor health.
Hmm.
So over the past couple of years, I was like, okay, let me rethink this, because life came at me real hard, and it came at me real hard after I went carnivore. And after, it's like I all of the weight that I had lost came back on. Stress can be extremely detrimental to any of your efforts, because it's keeping your cortisol high, very high. And it's like all of my numbers were wonky, and everything was just crazy. It didn't matter how I was eating, everything was just crazy. My sleep was trash. Um, Life, it was just life.
Right.
And
Right. Well, let
so,
me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
and so when when things finally, started to, um, I guess I could say, calm down a little bit, or when I was finally able to find a little bit of center, um,
Mm-hmm.
I had gained almost all of my weight back. I was grossly under eating protein. I
Mm.
was grossly under eating, and I was, my whole sleep, everything that I had worked on as in my health journey was, was just like, it almost seemed like it was for nothing. And it took
Mm.
me, and not to mention, at that time we were in the midst of a pandemic. So
Yeah.
um that it's like, okay, so I'm sheltering in place. I'm
You
sheltering in
know, so
place.
many people resorted to snacks during 2020, and doggone it, I can't imagine the carnivore. I didn't even think about that during that
Well,
time because you don't spend a lot of time in the kitchen as a
well,
carnivore. You really, really don't.
I can still spend a lot of time in the kitchen as a carnivore. There was still, I mean, I was I made the egg white bread. I bought an attachment for my kitchen aid so I can grind my own meat. I oh, I was still doing things. I was doing
Okay.
things
Okay.
in the
Well, listen, since
kitchen.
you just mentioned that meat real quick, let me ask you this. How what in when you're buying, do you look for grass fed? Do you try? I don't know where you
No,
live, so I do know
no.
where you live, but yeah. Do you look for a farmer's market or I just go in the
No,
grocery store and then
I
that's it?
walked my happy butt across the street to the Harris Teeter.
Listen, the Harris Teeter butchers will work with you, honey, because that's most
Look,
definitely where I can't tell that's where I get my fat from.
look, I the last time I got fat some beef fat trimmings,
Hmm.
because I call over and I'll be like, I like to get some beef fat trimmings. How much do you need? Oh, I'll take whatever you can give me.
Yeah, that's how we sound. That's how we sound.
It's
Anything you do is appreciated.
yeah. And so I'll get my beef fat trimmings for like 29 cents a pound. And the last time they gave me 10 pounds. And so I'm still working through the beef fat trimmings. And um, Laura asked if I eat a high amount of fat. That's relative. I eat most people would think that I eat really lean. I prioritize protein um, over fat. I use fat as a leverage um, because that's the energy. Because I'm not uh, eating carbohydrates, I have to have the energy source, and that's going to be fat. But protein, as we get older, and I think that more of us need to realize this, protein is extremely important. But
Mhm.
it's ironic that even in the carnivore community, a lot of people, especially women, are afraid of protein. So and afraid to like really eat. I mean, we'll dog out some fat. Fat this, fat that, fat bombs, whatever, whatever. But I have over the past, I want to say since August, the best results of anything, and the best results for my kidneys, the my blood work for my kidneys, my blood sugar, my everything. Because my past two EGFR, tests, it's just related to your kidneys. I mean, it was showing that I had chronic kidney disease. Now, I've had malaria twice. Long story,
Hmm.
not going to go into it. So, malaria, for those who don't know, is a parasite, it's a single cell parasite, and it can really impact all of your organs. And it'll lay dormant in your liver until you've had, some type of treatment. I had the worst kind of malaria. I could have died. I was going into grad school when it happened, and I didn't die apparently because I'm here now. Yay!
Thank the
And
Lord.
so, So my kidneys, like creatinine, all of those readings have been wonky, since then. But this is the first time, like as of last November, where I had like an absolutely good reading
Yeah.
for my kidneys. Yeah. And I attribute that to I finally got over my thing about protein. And I getting over my thing about protein helped me to also eat more. I'm able to,
Mm.
eat more. Um and I don't I know people, you know, I know I don't agree with Dr. Kiltz in regards to the too much protein. Um, I mean, what is too much protein? If
Yeah.
if
Well,
you know,
listen,
we yeah.
let me guide you this way because we got about 4 minutes left. So looking ahead, do you
Mhm.
foresee any adjustments or modifications to your carnivore diet as you continue your journey? And what are your long-term goals for your health and wellness?
Uh, my well, like what type of modifications? Like,
I
I mean,
whatever
I'm just
yeah, it's okay. Like for instance, me, this month I'm lying, but then Frederick and I we had a really good conversation. I'm gonna save that one for tomorrow, when he and I go live because I looked at him and say, "Don't say nothing else." That's a good conversation. Um, so but right now I'm doing the lion diet. I know that I'll never go back to the standard American diet. Just it's just not happening. There's not a piece of cake that I want. If I put it in my mouth, I'll probably spit it out. I don't even
mhm.
want to swallow it because so I'm just saying are there any adjustments or modifications, or do you feel for your that you've done this long enough and look, this how you ride now in your routine of what it is that you do?
I mean, I don't. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I don't, and plus I'm not into the trends. So, you know,
So when
when
you
I
say
came,
trends, what are
I
you making reference to?
like I'm not into, like, say for instance the sardine fast, or when people say, well, when I learned about carnivore, there was no lion diet. You're just carnivore. You just, I
Right,
mean, you just eat what you eat. And if you only want to eat ruminant meat, I mean, that's just what you ate. You were still
right,
carnivore. If you
right,
wanted to have dairy, if you could tolerate it, have at it. But if you can't, don't.
right.
It was just, and that was the simplicity that I that really hooked me. It's just real simple. And that's what I love. It's just really simple. I'm eating things that I enjoy. I
Yeah.
can't say, unless uh I don't know, unless I did something really weird in the cooking.
Well, weird
I
to me is that you don't use salt.
Well, yeah, it's not really weird because there are actually a lot of OGs that don't use salt. I stopped using salt as because of a challenge from an OG. It's like, give it a try. Okay. I tried for 3 weeks and that's all she said. It was like, try it for 3 weeks and just
And
see
the
what
purpose behind trying it was what?
um well, for one, it's like I still it's very easy for me to retain fluid. And I think that I am sodium sensitive. So I'm not going to be using a whole lot of salt on anything. Um, and it's I mean, taste wise, I'm just not going to do it. I'm the type of person, even though I'm like, say for instance, I do like to taste the pickles and, stuff like that. But if something is too salty, it's like, I'm not going to, no, I would
Wait a
get
minute.
a
So
jar.
do you use any salt, or it's like, no, I just
No,
cook the meat and
no.
eat it?
Yeah, I just cook the meat and eat it. I cook the meat and
Girl.
eat. But if you cook, I mean, what what you find happens is your taste buds actually change because
Well, that's
meat,
true.
yeah, meat actually has a certain amount of sodium in it. And there's sodium, potassium, and naturally there's a ratio. And the ratio is heavier in potassium than it is sodium. And for my body, and I don't know if it's because, well, how I was raised on light salt, for instance. We didn't use regular salt. So I don't know if there's an issue with how my kidneys handles, how my kidneys handle sodium. Um, these things I just don't know. I can
Right.
use, so for me, salt will come in the form of, I use about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons at the most of hot sauce. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's it. But I also have vinegar. I add vinegar. This is like this is my seasoning. Um
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Okay.
I don't
Okay. Well, you
yeah,
okay? I can work with that because
yeah.
I carry hot sauce in my purse, so I can work with that. So, all right. Well, thank you for fulfilling my dream of talking with you. Your story is phenomenal. And now I see why, for how long you've been in this community, where you started in the community, how you reached out, and made your presence in other groups on different platforms, sought out the community, try to get what works for you. But if I'm not mistaken, didn't you, when Frederick said he was going lion, is that when you say, I'm getting ready to do this? That was you, right?
Do what?
Well, lion, just pretty much kind of eat me. Didn't you do, maybe I'm tripping.
Yeah, you
I
might be
really, I
tripping
don't.
because I don't
Okay,
look.
yeah,
Yeah,
I can.
because I'm just gonna eat. I'm gonna eat the meat. I'm just carnivore. Like, no labels like that. I'm just
Gotcha.
carnivore, animal
Well, you
based.
are.
Yeah,
I say that all the time. We're the one,
yeah,
you can say I'm a Christian, and then somebody say, well, what church do you go to? Because they're trying to see what denomination you are to place you in a box.
right,
And so
right.
we do it in so many things. If you have your doctorate in what? You have your degree in what? It was so funny because that did happen today. My husband had his A&T shirt on, and it's the look. And before you know it, that's the question that came out. uh uh what was your degree in? And I love to hear him. My husband is electrical engineer, and I turned and looked at old boy and I said, and so he real smart. But I always tell him, wait a minute, I always tell him, I say, he's smart, but I'm smarter because I married him. Hey, I'm winning. Hey.
Yeah, and
I'm
and
winning.
so it's and it interesting, just real quick, but
Mhm.
people get label fatigue. And when I'm tired, like really tired of all the labels, and people see me in different live streams or whatever. When I'm tired of all of those different labels, I go to the OG carnivore groups and I just chill in there because they don't do all of that. They
Well,
were
you need to
around
send
before,
me some of
yeah,
them, what you call it.
yeah, they were
Because I
around
don't,
before
you know what?
Michaela Peterson, came up,
Mhm.
which, it wasn't like she said, "Oh, I want to eat like a lion." No, she said, I just thought it was a cool name. That's it. So She didn't study how lions eat or anything like that. What she knew was that ruminant meats solved her problem. She didn't have the issues with that. So when people were asking her about it, well, what do you call it? What do you call that diet? And she just thought, hey, lion diet sounds cool. I'll call it the lion diet. So
Hmm.
all of that gets just overwhelming. And I
Yes.
just, I like the OG carnivore groups, and you know, it's just, it just, yeah, that centers me. That centers me because I need that sometimes. And we all need
Yeah.
something that centers us,
Yeah.
and we're not, getting caught up in the hubbub, because it's always going to be something. It will always be something. And people will end up feeling like, oh, I haven't done enough. I'm not doing enough. I need to do something different. Or I'm not, it'll go back to the weight. I'm not losing weight fast enough. And usually that's what it
Mm.
is. I'm not losing enough weight. They're not thinking about body composition. They're
Yeah,
not thinking
that
about,
would be that would be me, because I think you were actually on the stream when that's one of the things I was talking about. I said I've imposed this. I want to be 125 by the time I turn 60 in July. I said, but in actuality, if I hadn't said that, I would just continue and allow my body, not rushing it or anything, allow it to do what it needs to do as long as I'm feeding it right. Yeah.
yeah.
So I really understand. But that labeling thing, okay, here's my label. Mrs. Frederick Brown. That's my label right there.
Look, and
And
that's the most important one. And
there you go. And
no,
I wear
not
it proudly. I
actually.
really, really do.
Actually, child of God, kingdom kid
Yes.
is the most important
Yes.
one. And then we'll
Yes.
go with Mrs. Frederick Brown,
Yes.
after that.
There
Yeah.
you go. All right. Well, everybody, I got my friend on here. I am like super excited. I hope you all got something from this. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. So now, when she's in them comments, y'all turn around and see she got a boatload of yeah, history and everything coming with her, and knowledge. She sat in on so many different podcasts, streams, the doctors, the books that she's read. But I love the fact that the bottom line is that you're trying to take care of you. You're trying to
Mhm.
figure out what's best for you. And all the things that she said might not be the best thing for you. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. All right. Well, we're going to end it. You stay put. Everybody, thank you all so much. And Frederick and I will see you guys tomorrow at 2:30. Because y'all see, I kept trying to let stuff slip out, but I'm going to save it for tomorrow, because I didn't even tell him. I will see y'all tomorrow. Have a
Thanks,
great
y'all.
evening.